Hi, my name is Linda McKay, and I'm with bigdatatrunk, a corporate training company. We deal with learning and development professionals, and one of the things that we noticed is that you face very similar challenges in your work. For example, one of the last big challenges was how you all had to pivot for COVID, but there's upcoming challenges. For example, AI is coming, and then there's the day-to-day things like how do you measure success, how do you engage people in your training programs, and we thought it would be worthwhile to share with each other how you're meeting those challenges. The interview we have today is with Skylar Westergaard of Landcare out of Dallas. And without further ado, let's start that interview. Thank you. And tell me a little bit about yourself and Landcare so we understand
Yeah,
what you're facing.
yeah, thank you, Linda. I'll just give you a little bit of, in the audience, a little bit of background of who I am. So my current position is at Learning and Development Specialist at Landcare. Landcare is a nationwide landscape management company. Not a lot of people out there, know a lot about details about landscaping and how it works. But what we do is we manage and maintain large commercial projects.
Mm.
So many of listeners will have been to their favorite resort or hotel or work in office parks and have seen landscapers out there. That's what we do. Our ideal clients are resorts, hotels, hospitals, corporate campuses. We manage all the landscaping and maintain all the landscaping from the simple mowing of the grass to managing plant health, even snow and ice management in wintertime. So that's what we do. Our company is about 4,000, a little over 4,000 employees, and we have about 60 branches across the country, from Seattle to LA, Phoenix, Texas, and then the Mid-Atlantic and Florida. So my background is in landscaping, and I came into the position I'm at now from college campus. I was a professor at Brigham Young University's Idaho campus,
Hmm.
and am now in corporate learning and development.
So it's an interesting shift that you made. And a big shift. So you were very much in the content. You were a landscaping expert, so to say, teaching that. Now you've shifted to something quite different in a way. What was the reason for the shift, and what do you see as the challenges in this new role that are different from teaching?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's a different context than being in a college classroom with bachelor's degree students mostly. For me, the shift made sense for a couple of reasons. One, I love teaching, and I
Mm.
love learning too. And I've always liked that. As a matter of fact, whenever I'm traveling and I have the opportunity and time, I love to just walk around campuses, whether that be a college campus in the city I'm visiting, or a community college or whatnot. I just love walking around and feeling that learning and growth. I've always loved to read. And that's what made me want to go into teaching in my content area at the university in the first place. And so the transition away from the university context into the corporate world is felt natural to me, because of that interest and love of learning and teaching and helping people grow and develop. I remember it started when I was in graduate school. I had an experience where I was a teaching assistant for a professor in a theory of design class, so in
Mm.
landscape architecture, and a student was really having a hard time understanding a concept that the teacher was teaching. And I walked over to his desk and just explained it in a slightly different way that made sense to me. And I saw the light. He kind of had an aha moment, like, oh, I get it now. Boy, that feels really, really good. I
Hmm.
had a light bulb moment, I think, at that time, saying, wow, this, a career in helping people have those moments, and how meaningful that can be to a person's life and to
Mm.
the life of their family and loved ones. That for me, that kind of made sense, a transition from a university classroom to a corporate training.
That's and the demographic of who you teach or who you're responsible for the learning is a little bit
Mhm.
different now in the corporate world, right? So younger people, obviously at university, and
Yeah.
what did you have to do to prepare for that?
Yeah, the demographic is different. At the university, we're teaching people like, hey, when you enter your profession, this is what you'll be doing. This is what you'll be seeing. These will be the expectations. Now the demographic is, hey, you are doing these things like today. What struggles are you having? So um, a few that the difference between just something that's coming to mind right now, that's a fun challenge is in the college classroom I can hold a grade. That's part of the content. I shouldn't say hold a grade over their head because I didn't see it that way, but there's a grade and they've paid for those credits. And if they don't do, what's expected, then they don't get the benefit. In the corporate world, it's a little bit different because you don't have that context with them. So getting the people to engage in the training for their own, their own will. They don't have the driver of like, I paid for this credit, I better kind of do what's expected. I think also just college students are more used to and comfortable with, most of them, to learning and the rigors of that and meeting assignment deadlines and taking quizzes because they do it like every day. In the corporate training world, finding ways to quiz people, have an assessment for them, having them engage with that learning. Not everybody is as maybe skilled or experienced with that, or they haven't done it for a long time. So
Right.
so just understanding that people at a different stage. Honestly, the balance, a college student, that's their full-time job in a way, is to learn and to go to
Right.
class and to do assignments and projects. For the people that I am helping, the learning that I'm giving them is kind of secondary a little bit to the expectations that they have on a day-to-day basis to fulfill their primary roles in what they do. So just working with that balance. Yeah, those have been some kind of fun challenges to kind of think about as a teacher.
What about the confidence? Do you have do you see sometimes a lack of confidence in new learners, people that haven't been in school for a long time or maybe never went to school because that your profession is something you can get into without a degree. I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's it's harder to get into like the leadership roles and without a degree. Our frontline employees, yeah, there's a lot that don't have college education. So yeah, the confidence, I that's one of those factors too. If
Hmm.
somebody hasn't been in learning for a while, there can be a trepidation, like, well, what's going to be expected? Can I
Mm.
do it? Can I learn this? Is it going to be, how much time is it going to take? And I see part of my role is not only developing accurate content and delivering that in a successful way, but also it's people building. If we go back, for me, it's this thing in my heart that kind of that story that I shared a few minutes ago about helping a student at his desk
Hmm.
having a hard time understanding theory of landscape architecture. Um, so I think part of it is helping people build confidence. Hey, you can do
Hmm.
this. I'm on your side. I'm here with you. You can reach out to me anytime if there's any questions. So really quickly building a culture of learning, if they're coming into to a learning environment that I'm facilitating. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that makes sense,
No,
Linda, or
it
not, but
does.
yeah, building people up just generally. Hey, you can do this. We're going to do it together. You're typically the stuff that I'm doing, they're in a cohort too. So they have others that are in similar situations as them,
Right.
but in different markets or different offices in the country. But just being there, I think my I try to, be optimistic and positive. And, like I said, I'm on your side. I'm here to help you. I want you to be successful. We can do this together. Um,
But I
that's
think
part of part of the answer.
when you told that story about the person getting it, and also your realization that this kind of learning can change people's lives, I do think confidence is part of that because you're going to instill something in them, and then they go on to believe that they can do it again. You know, it's
Yeah,
it's 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 a life changing idea. I think that I'm capable of this, and I can do it again. So it's very
yeah,
rewarding. I can see that it's very rewarding for you.
it is.
One of the things that we also talked about was your company is, you've got the corporate and you've got the regional offices, and the training L&D is coming from corporate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the challenges I'm assuming you face is getting engagement, and making sure this isn't just a corporate initiative that is being rammed down people's throats, and making sure that they're a part of it. So, tell me a little bit about how that's working for you and what have you done to overcome potential resistance to what you're bringing?
Yeah, I'll just kind of share what we're doing. I'm sure others listening will be in that role too. That balance, that teeter totter of things coming from corporate and having that come across in the right way, I think is a challenge for many people. For us, we do a couple of things that I think are helpful when we're trying to do that. And you mentioned this, our structure, we have, and I said that we have these 60 branches around the company. We've really set them up to kind of, in a way, be independent businesses. So there's a branch manager that really kind of owns what happens in that, $5 million office. But then you got this overlay of the corporate support. And I think the word support is key here. And
Mm,
because I think that helps me understand my role to those branches is support. I need to
mm,
help them be successful. My role is to help them reach their goals and success in the branch. Now, communication is also a really big key, because for any of us, when we don't understand the why does Skylar want some of my employees to engage in this training? Like, what's the purpose of that? Is it just something more to do? Is it because he's sitting in his office and to get a paycheck, he needs to give me something, to learn? Or is it because this is really going to add value to the branch teams? And I
mhm,
hope that's where it comes from. So we do a couple things, I think, to give that message of communication and support. One of the things with the big project that I'm working on, um, is a training that new employees go through. They're out of college, they're starting their first career job, and they're in an entry level management position. And it's a year-long training program, and every
mm,
week there's assignments. And one of the things we do to answer your question is we engage with the branch managers and I don't want to get too far into like the organizational structure, but the branch managers and the regional or market vice presidents, we engage with them first
mm,
and say, hey, here's some training that we feel is really important for these new employees that you're hiring this year that are in their entry level management positions. And we communicate the training to them. We let them see the training. We give them access to all the they can have access to all the content. We give them an overview so you can say,
right.
okay, this is what it will entail. These are the topics we're going to cover. And then we ask them to suggest employees that they would like to participate in this training.
Mm,
So it makes it nice, because then we know that we've got their understanding of the program, of what's required, the time commitment, the value in it. And those that feel comfortable enough with it, they then recommend, hey, I'd like Susie or Johnny to do it this year, and I have full support of it. At that point, then we reach out to those employees and we say, hey, you've been recommended by your manager. We are
oh,
really
nice.
excited. We would like you to participate in it. If they choose to do so, then we kind of created this, we call it an agreement, which sounds really boring and legal, but we create this really fun one-page colorful document that's really a marketing piece. Says, hey, this program's going to be awesome. By the way, this is what's required as far as time and commitment. And then we have the employee sign it, and again, their manager signs it. So I think that
Mm,
builds confidence in the employee, knowing that they have the support of their managers, and that helps break a lot of barriers down,
mhm,
as far as like, oh, this is just something else that corporate is making us do. They get a choice. They get to decide, do I want my employee to do that? Is this the right time for him or her? So that's an example of something that we do. And others are when we have our larger corporate leadership conferences, where we bring all of our managers together in person, which we do once a year. We also talk about these training initiatives there and get
mm,
counsel and some buy-in. there, and then we try to kind of get the water to the end of the row, so to speak.
So in some ways, it's a reward, or it's like an acknowledgement of someone's value that they're being picked for this training. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
in
a.
the example with the specific training that I'm talking about, absolutely, it's
Mm-hmm,
kind of by invitation only. It's
mm,
it's a year-long training
mm-hmm.
in this specific example, so it's a lot.
So it's an
We have
investment.
other trainings that are, not that big, but yeah, that one, it's a sign of our commitment to that employee. It's
But
kind of, yeah, I'd say kind of a reward. It's letting them know, hey, we're really seriously investing in you. And by the way, I'll just add this. I don't want this to come across as is overconfident, but in the landscape world, this type of training and learning and development, we feel like we're kind of like breaking some new ground. I know it's
mm,
not new ground in the L&D environment, but for
mm.
landscapers, we feel like we're doing something really, really cool that is going to, and it's not that other landscape companies don't have, education. It's important to all of us. But anyway, I'll just put that little plug in there too. It's fun for me to be involved with a company that's really, I think, breaking ground in our profession, in the landscape management, world.
Yeah, and actually, we spoke before, and you mentioned something. I can't remember what you said about your CEO and
Mm-hmm.
his commitment to this. So,
Yeah.
so it's and then how what changes he implemented. So it's like true organizational support for that big idea. So tell me a little bit about that thinking from him.
Yeah. I mean, he himself values employee development and learning and education, and he sees how important it is to the success of the company. I mean, it's an indirect financial reward or financial outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but it can be a hard one, I think, for executives. And if you're just looking at it from a financial perspective, my job, I just cost, in at least in the short term, I spend the money, right? I don't earn the money. Our branch managers and teams are the ones serving the customers. They earn the money. So our CEO understands the value of that investment. It's a spend now in
Mm-hmm.
time, and my position, right, is got to be something that he has decided is and the position of the others on my team. But so yes, we have his support. I think it started with him,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, really cool. And I think I'm lucky to be in that, where we have his support. It started with him. We don't have to convince him that, hey, we need to invest in people's learning and development. Now, yes, we answer to him when we want to have a conference and it's going to cost some money, that we got to be careful with the business money. But he is on board, and he comes
Mm-hmm.
into the trainings, and he's a guest speaker at some of the things I
Mm-hmm.
do. And he came up to me at one of a meeting I was in with him and many other leaders in the company, and said, hey, will you let me be more involved with the training that you're doing? I want to be. And it's like, well, you're the CEO, so you can absolutely, we want you involved. He's a very passionate person also about
Mm-hmm.
what we do, and investing in not only our people but our community and the environment. So we have his support, and that kind of flows down to the rest of us, which is really cool.
That's very cool. Having been on the other side where you push ideas uphill, I'd much rather be in your position.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some things we get creative, and he kind of wants to rethink a little bit. But I think that's part of good dialogue and counseling together as
Mm-hmm.
professionals about, and coming up with, the having the synergy, to make ideas even better. So yeah, I mean, we don't have a blank check, but we do have his strong support.
That's really that's the battle, I think, right there. That's absolutely the battle.
Yeah.
The other thing that we started talking about was the future of L&D, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I know that I've been absolutely dumbstruck by the Chat GPT, and I've been playing around with it. So how are you thinking about that in terms of impact to you, and just what are the ways that you're thinking about it? I'd be very curious to know how you're going to prepare for this.
Yeah, I think this is the question that is on everybody's mind around the world right now. And news is coming out almost on a daily basis with changes to artificial intelligence. You mentioned ChatGPT, which is one part of artificial intelligence
Right.
and is kind of the leader, and it's kind of almost like a foundation to a lot of other bots or tools, AI tools that can be used.
And I think with ChatGPT, it's given common people a window
Mhm.
into this world that
Yeah,
you don't need to explain too much. Now they can actually try it, and I
yeah,
think that's what's caused this revolution among regular folk. Right.
it has. And in a lot of the conversations that I have, there's excitement. I think it's also normal to have some questions or some trepidation. What does this mean? Is the information that GPT is creating, what does that mean? How reliable is it? How accurate is it? And things like that. But I think it's fun that everybody gets to just play around with it. And
Mm-hmm.
most people have, because you just go to their website and start typing in things. Some of the things that I'm thinking about personally with it, and how it relates to my role and my career, I think there's a couple sides to the coin. In learning and development, what what do I need to understand as a learning and development professional so that I can to use artificial intelligence to help me in my role, to help me in my career and what I do, as for example a tool in creating learning and development. But I also think that there's part of like, is there training that needs to be created just to help people in our company understand how to use artificial intelligence
Mm-hmm.
with their jobs. Um, for example, there is, and this gets really fun, but there's if you can actually start using several artificial intelligence, I'll say tools together, and they can start communicating with each other to create some really neat things. So I was practicing with thinking about how would a company, or how would we as landscapers start interacting, or letting AI help us interact personally and closely with like future customers. And so there's a tool that's called Zapier, Zapier, or Zapier. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I've heard it both ways online. And it will let Chat GPT talk to it, and then it can create content, like personalize an email back to that person with some more information. So it's kind of cool, because instead of me or an individual like taking emails from customers and then trying to get back to them in a very timely manner
Mm.
and make sure it's accurate, and that there's still a need for that, don't get me wrong. I don't think like the person to person, like real human interaction, is going to go away. I actually think it may become even more valuable as artificial intelligence gets bigger and bigger, like the ability for people face to face to interact. But it can help us automate things quickly that can save time, like responding to an initial email, right? Or this is, I'll get kind of nerdy about this as a landscaper, but I was playing around with somebody wants to interact with our company. So we're in landscapers, right? And they say they fill out a simple form that has their name, phone number, address, and they can actually, a little box, they can put in a prompt like, I would like to see some images or concepts for my backyard pool or something, right? Artificial intelligence, through about 3 different bots or tools, including OpenAI or Chat GPT, can respond without me doing anything. A potential client or customer can fill out the form. Artificial intelligence will create an image that they asked for example, a concept for their backyard. It will create it for them. It will design the image and graphic for them. draft an email, draft a title to that email, respond to that person with a personalized email describing the image, and then attaching that image to the email, sending that, and then saving all that to my Google Drive. And it will do all that in about 5 seconds. So these are some of the questions, like, what does it mean? How do we use it in learning and development? What tools are out there both to help us with our jobs? And then what do we need to do as far as training experts to help our teams in our companies know how best to use these tools to improve their own productivity and efficiency?
Interesting. Yeah, I get it. So I was thinking it from a narrower perspective. I was thinking about it in terms of developing content or, delivery, but you're seeing it as a tool that you need to train about, right? It will be one of those things that you may need to train.
I think to me, those are the kind of the two things that I'm in my mind right now. There's two sides: training about it and using it to help me do things. I used it to help me write some content. So a lot of the content that I'm writing can be more technical towards landscaping, but when we get into some areas of more like general leadership or something like that, I actually let AI help me write an article for some training. I let it do about 95% of the work, and then I needed to go in there and make sure, okay, this is exactly what I want to say. This is the vernacular that I want to use. So you can go in and edit it. It's not hard to do.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think those. I agree, Lynn. I think those, for me, those are the two things: how to train about it, and then use it in our own. And I don't have all the answers. I mean, it's so new to so many of us that we're all, I think, kind of figuring out what does it mean.
Yes, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more tools on the market. I'm sure they'll be coming out quickly that will interface with AI in ways that make it easier for us. Right now, we are the interface tool, right? And so I was playing around with it to see, because I teach a class in data management. I was thinking, could it help me? Would it have helped me put the content together? And oh my God, would it have helped me?
Yes.
Right. And also,
even if it doesn't do it 100% perfect, if it does 90, 85%, 90% of creating that content, and it is amazing. If there's some listeners out there that have not tried it, take 30 minutes of your day this week and try it. Cause I mean, it's incredible. And it can be a little bit overwhelming because there's a lot there, but just to clarify, we've used some terms. We've said open AI and we've said GPT. Chat GPT is created by open AI. So
right.
It's a tool that company.
It's an interface, if you will. It's a textual interface.
Yeah. So just go Google Chat GPT, and this artificial intelligence is even gonna, take over Google and Bing and stuff. They're already working on how they incorporate it. So go play with it, because it's stunningly accurate and fast.
Shocking. I did read an article by Bill Gates, and he talked about seeing it, and not seeing it for the first time, but he gave his people a challenge, because I guess he's a big investor, a challenge he thought they wouldn't be able to do in a year, and 2 or 3 months later they came back with it completed and beautiful. Yeah. But his reaction, and it was the same reaction I had, because I've been in tech for a long time. It felt like one of the biggest changes I've seen in the 40 years I've been in tech, right? And he said the same thing. The only thing he likened it to, and I did too, was the first time he saw a graphical user interface, because up to that point you'd never been able to actually connect. And I felt the same way when I saw the OpenAI kind of capabilities. It's like, oh my God, this is a total game changer, and it will change everything that we do.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not an expert at it. I don't think it's too far-fetched to say, this is going to affect everything we do, just as you said, whether we like it or not. And I'm from the perspective like, hey, we should be careful, but let's embrace change.
Right.
I think there were people, this might be hopefully not too overly sold. But I think there were people that hesitated on using the automobile instead of horse and carriage, right? Mm-hmm. And you know what? Innovation and technology comes whether we're ready for it or not. It's pretty amazing. Here's another example of using AI to help us in our work. There's a tool out there that will actually come into meetings like this, Zoom meetings or Teams meetings, and it will listen in as a participant, and it will take notes for you of everything that happened in a really well done way. And you can set, depending on how you set it up. So you basically have a guest come in and take notes for you. It's not a real
Mhm.
person. It's a bot. And then send those notes out to all the participants in the group, or just send them to you as the leader or the facilitator of the discussion. So there's an example where maybe it makes sense to let AI just do some of the work for us, and then let
Right.
us as humans then have time and bandwidth to do the things that maybe only we can do.
For now, only we can do. Yeah.
For now, yeah, for now. I mean, I don't think we ever thought that robots would build automobiles, but they do. you know.
One of the other things we talked about when we talked about the future, things that you need to be thinking about, and maybe AI will factor into this, but one of the challenges is how to measure what you do, how to measure the
Mm-hmm.
success of your programs. And have you given some thought to that? And where are you in that process?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Assessing performance is really important because it's the loop. It gives us the data that we need to really decide, are we accomplishing what we want to accomplish in training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll be honest, for me, when you talk about the future of like where I'm at in my role and the stuff we're trying to do at our company, that's an area where I need to spend some time. It's an important area of measuring success. And it starts with defining what does success look like, and
Right.
then right, and that's probably the biggest question is what does success look like, and then figuring out, okay, what tools are we going to use to then measure that? Is it a survey? Is it an exam? Is it performance? I think that there's some things that we are struggling with, kind of coming with a black and white measure of what success is. Does the employee, we're striving, for example, to have more internal promotion. So when we there's some leaders that want to improve in that, like, hey, when we hire a new branch manager, do we bring that person in from outside, or can we promote from within? And sometimes it's one and sometimes it's the other. I think we would like to see more internal promotions in that role. So one of the measures can be, hey, people that went through this year-long training that I've been talking about, and it's on my mind because it's like the big project I'm working on right now. Did they get promoted?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't make the decision on whether they get promoted or not, right?
Right.
I'm the support. Did their local leaders decide, hey, they are now ready, they have got the skills, experience, and knowledge they need to then take on the next level? That can be a measure. I'm not sure that is the one measure of success with that program. I wish I had this brilliant, innovative thing to share, like, hey, we're doing this really cool thing, this is how we're measuring. I'll just say, hey, I'm just being real, that I need to work on that. I need to figure out what that looks like, and then figure out how we assess that. Even when I was back at, as a professor in college, I mean, that was always a challenge to find out, are we accomplishing what we want to accomplish? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
really fun for me, because I love this stuff, just to talk to people about it and have people do things and have people engage with the content. But is it accomplishing what we hope to accomplish? And
And maybe
got to work on that one.
maybe AI can help with that and identify the things that matter and the things to measure. Because I think part of the challenge is you don't have the picture of never having done it. So if you can say, well, I'm going to spend 5 years not training anybody, let's see what that looks like. And now I'm going to implement this great training, let's see what that looks like. We don't have that
Yeah.
luxury, right? And so you've got to
Yeah.
figure out what are the levers, what are the things to look at that can give you that answer. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And this goes back too to like the question you asked earlier about the differences for me in moving from the college classroom to the corporate is, in the college environment, we have a lot of data that we can pull from.
Mm-hmm.
So we have exam scores, we have project grades, we have all this different stuff that we can kind of pull from. And it's just where I'm at right now with what I'm working on. We don't have that at the same degree. And
Right.
not that we can't, there's work to do there for us.
Yes, I agree. And it'll be challenging, but worth investing. So this has been great, Skylar. I love talking to you. So when you think about the future of L&D, besides AI, which is not a trivial besides, and measurement, are there other things that you think about that you feel like you need to plan for that might be coming?
I think that something that comes to mind is, as we all through the past 3-4 years came through COVID, it was very challenging for many reasons. In the learning and development field, in the teaching side, it's like figuring out how to teach people now that maybe weren't going to be physically present all the time. I think that there's some silver lining to that. I think that kind of forced us to think creatively about how we do that. But I also feel like we have some good work to do there too, and figure out, okay, so how do we best deliver training in situations where traditionally that type of training has been done in person? How do we do that? And it's challenging, but it's exciting because it allows that training to become more scalable at a lower cost.
Right.
But we got to make sure we do it really well too. It can't just be like, oh, we do it online now. Something in landscaping, technical might be like how to sharpen a lawnmower blade, or how to properly prune a rhododendron, or how to properly calculate fertilization rates or whatever. And stuff that has been done hands-on in workshops, can we do that online? So I think that's a part of the future is still, and it's not like we've been doing it for a while, but I feel like, and maybe it's just me personally, like I feel like there'll be a lot more to come in us improving how we communicate in a virtual world. And online learning has been around for a while, so
yes.
It's not like we're starting from scratch. But that's something that I think about a lot. I feel like when I was in a college classroom with a group of students live, how I interact and feel the culture and the tempo of the room, the pulse of the room, is very different when it's a group of people on a Zoom call, right? And how do I get that same interaction and engagement through? Those are questions I think we need to keep working on.
I agree, and it was sort of it's either online or in person, and I think what you're saying is there's a much more nuanced view of this that we need to think about, so that it won't be one or the other. It'll be some package of ideas that come together.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been great talking to you, Tyler. I have really enjoyed it. So this is a time I'm going to ask you, what didn't I ask you? Are there things that I should have asked, or that you think are important, that you'd like to bring up now?
I can't think of any questions. I love talking about this stuff. We could probably talk for an hour more. But I've enjoyed talking with you and being engaged with this. As you've brought up, for me personally, getting into the corporate leadership and development world has been a fun new challenge and adventure for me. And it's fun to interact with people that are like-minded. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of talk with you a little bit about that. I look forward to, I'll be attending ATD 23, which some of the listeners may be going to later this fall, out in San Diego. I look forward, for me, it's just exciting to kind of get into this world and realize that there's a lot more there than I had even realized. I'm learning too about the L&D world and profession, and it's exciting.
Great.
So I don't know if there's any questions I'd say you didn't ask. There probably are, and I don't know what they are either.
So it's a perfect interview.
Fun to chat. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks, Skylar.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay.